today, guys, on Hathaway History, we will be opening up this box that my dad found in our round top. And I'm going to be opening it with my grandma because she has not seen what is inside of it. So, open it up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is very colorful.
The new and finer Pontiac 6. Oh, wow. Sproul motor. Look, did you notice the addresses? Look at it. Great Bend 224. That's the phone number. Larned 112. That's because you'd call the operator and say, long distance for Great Bend. And she'd connect with that.
And open it up. It's a very big
in striking new Duco colors. Pontiac 6 at its introduction electrified the nation. The new bodies by Fisher mark a triumph even for Fisher. Just look at all the adjectives. The commanding beauty is emphasized by longer, lower contours, deeper radiators, and larger, heavier, and more sweeping crown fenders of the Oakland type. Oh, that is just wonderful.
And then,
oh, wow.
and hold it up.
The prices, look at the prices. The coupe is
That's what I saw.
$745. The 4-passenger sport cabriolet, $795, and the sport roadster, $745. Deluxe Landau sedan, $925. Sedan $745. And the Landau sedan, $845. See that symbol, that the Native American, that was the Pontiac symbol, because that was Pontiac, that was the Indian's name. And a Pontiac car, this right here on the front of it, on the hood, that was an ornament of Pontiac. Indian. Wonder what year this is. Does it say? Anywhere?
Dad thinks that it's like 27s and 28s. Because he thinks that Fred was trying to find a car to buy.
In Daddy's book would tell. He had a Pontiac later, a different one, when I was a kid. Oh, that is cool. You can tell how much it mattered to him for him to have put it in that box and kept it so carefully. Even though it was in the shed, That is cool. Just the box is beautiful. Hathaways didn't throw anything away. You always kept it in case you could use it for something. Before sealing this envelope, before you have written your name and address on the order. Oh, it has teeny tiny little tacks. Teeny tiny. like maybe a 1/4 inch long barely. Excuse me. Montgomery Ward. That was the big catalog company like Sears. It was Sears and Roebuck or Montgomery Ward. Don't know what that is. It's obviously torn. It's part of something.
I'm guessing that it was part of the box, maybe.
I don't know. Chancellor, you're so smart. Wonder if it's that side. Oh, it's this side. Frank Lockhart, noted automobile racer, killed in speed trials in Daytona Beach. Lockhart in his Stutz, I don't know how to say it, Blackhawk special. April 5th, doesn't say what year. It was thrown clear of the machine. Spectators found him breathing heavily and bleeding profusely about the mouth and head. I'm going to see if there's a date on the back. The newspaper costs 3 cents in town and 5 cents outside of town. It's the Wichita paper, 1928. So, Daddy would have been 14. He might have been the one to save this, because he was all about machines, but Grandpa was too. For very conservative people, they were all about their vehicles. Mrs. Lockhart was one of the 200 spectators in the stands. His wife, now widow. He blew the right rear tire, which caused the accident. Nash, enclosed car. We had neighbors who had a Nash when I was, like in grade school. Look at the prices. They're all well under $1,000. Well, that's almost $1,000.
Well,
Aren't they beautiful?
That price isn't to that one.
Oh, that goes to that one. Isn't that something?
Wait, oh, never mind. Yeah, I think that price is for that one.
Yeah. Grandpa loved his cars, and he wasn't a show off. He just liked them, and he'd see some new model. I mean, he wasn't crazy about buying them real often, but he always bought a good car. And they probably drove more than most people, because Grandma's family lived in northern Oklahoma, in Woods County, and it was important to him to be able to take her to see her parents and her brothers and sisters and the nieces and nephews. And so you had to have a decent car to go there, because there weren't a lot of filling stations, and you'd get flat tires along the way. So you always had spare tires and everything you needed to change the tire or patch the tire, patch the downed tire. Here's some more of the Nash. And when part of the family, her parents lived in the country, but she had siblings that lived in town. And so when he pulled into town and they'd, go in to a store or business or go into where somebody in her family was working. Oh, these are well over 1,000. they'd come back out and there'd be people all standing around his car looking at it. Because people in Winoka, Oklahoma hadn't seen a nice car like that. And the comment was, Bertha did really well for herself. But they had homesteaded in Oklahoma a whole generation later. So naturally they were behind in the, financially because of that. Man, look at those interiors. It looks like a fancy train, fancy train car. For those who love fine motor cars, that would have been Grandpa. Oh, that is cool. So that's the bottom part of this paper. It's folded weird. Treasure Chest, a page for boys. So this is The Furrow. That must have been a farm magazine. And a page for boys would have been real crafty things that they could make and do. Daddy was all over that. He used to subscribe to American Boy or, I don't know, something like that. We have stacks of them in the attic. And there are things around the farm that are from there that he made. Some kind of a pegboard game. Marble croquet, like the croquet game outside. Mm-hmm. Carrying a spare tire. Bowling with matches. Isn't that just funny? Oh, how to make a kite reel. That's a cool deal to wind up the string. He probably made them all. Okay, then here's the farmy side. Harvesting corn with a modern binder. Because we've got to stay on top of everything. Corn picker at work with tractor furnishing power for pulling the wagon. It was common, like we think of a tractor as a vehicle, but it was common then for people to use a tractor as a power source. And in the barn, like where you have that freezer with the food in it, there was a grinder there, a grain mill, a grain grinder, because the animals, both cattle and hogs, would get better use out of the grain if it was cracked. If you fed them whole grain, it'd come out whole grain. Anyway, and so the grinder needed power, and they would park the tractor out in front of the barn and then run a belt from the implement wheel, not the one that drove on the ground, but the power wheel, the motor wheel, from that to the grinder. And that was how they got the power for the grinder. And that way you didn't have to have a motor for this and a motor for that. Look how close he was to the implement. And there were accidents where a farmer would fall off and be injured or even killed. "496 teeth enter the soil every 6 feet the implement travels." Isn't it funny how they put 496? Because now we would say 496. So this wouldn't have been so much advertising that particular implement as teaching people how things could be done. Educating people about the modern changing farming practices. Have we looked at this one?
Mm-hmm.
Pontiac again. You don't know if this is Grandpa's box? Oh, Mr. Red Hathaway. That would be Fred Hathaway. Dear sir, if there is any one thing that will win your respect for an automobile, it is reliability. The car that's always ready to go is the one we all admire. Isn't that funny? To write a personal letter to a customer? Sproul Motor. There used to be... Okay, Lyons had, I don't know how many implement dealers. At least 3 in my memory, so there perhaps had been 4. And I think maybe Sproul was one, but it was from this Great Ben Sproul. Even in the 50s, there were at least 3 in Lyons. And the appearance of the car, the beauty of the car was such a big deal for them to, to advertise. It starts promptly in winter. Keeps you out of service stations. You'll have slight use for a service station when you drive. And we think of a service station as you get back from somewhere and you need to have oil changed or need to have something and you take it in there to do that. Well, back in the day, if you had a trip for very long, you'd likely need a service station somewhere along that trip. That is so fun to have his name in it, even if it's wrong. The story of the new Ford car.
This is a pretty long book thing.
The new and modern car designed to meet new and modern conditions. A 40 horsepower engine.
So many horses.
It will do 55 and 60 miles an hour with ease. And has actually run 65 miles an hour in road tests. Now this was back when, the roads, even the dirt roads weren't good like they are now. And now, they're probably not that good now. But
Oh, yeah, I wasn't able to get the second page.
I'll go try that one more time.
I guess
Nope,
I didn't
not
even
that
really
one.
look in the book.
It was hard when they started making cars because all they knew how to design were wagons. And they didn't know what a car should look like because they knew, it shouldn't be a wagon. But they were kind of boxy and wagony to start with. Exceptionally easy to steer. 3/4 floating rear axle. Ford design steel spoke wheels. I'm looking at the wheels. Some of the first cars were made by the wagon companies because they could see, well, people aren't going to be using wagons anymore. And they switched, but some were brand new companies. Oh, standard equipment on all new Ford cars. A starter. You have a starter. And you have a windshield wiper and even a speedometer. And a gas gauge. And an ammeter. And dash lights and a mirror. And rear and stop light. An oil gauge. ignition lock, and a complete tool set. Davis and Child, Ford dealers in Hutchinson. Whippet, I have no idea what that is. The perfected Whippet, the most valuable car ever offered for so little money. A quality car at our lowest price in history. Notice they're showing a lady driving it. That was a little bit controversial, whether women should drive cars or not.
It's so colorful.
Many added features. Full crown press steel fenders, an engine that doubles its rated horsepower. Full force-fed lubrication, silent timing chain. I believe that the reason women were not encouraged to drive cars didn't have anything to do with the fact that they should have men do that for them itself. I think they felt like pushing the pedals, because you had to brake and clutch and all that, pushing the pedals could injure their baby making parts. And I mean, like if a woman miscarried, everybody in the world would look for what she had been doing that caused stress on her body. And driving a car where you have to push those pedals, if both your feet were up at the same time preparing to push a pedal, both pedals, that would cause, muscle action on your abdomen. I'm saying that because even running a treadle sewing machine was considered risky. And it was foolish, of course, but they didn't know. Oh my gosh, look at this gorgeous picture. Smart, compact bodies with fleet, low lines, now so much in vogue. Long-lasting lacquer in harmonious duo tones. Set off by colorful striping and contrasting wheels. And see, they show women in all the pictures, so you can tell that this was designed to be a car that the wife would talk the husband into getting because it was so attractive. Outward beauty is the reflection of inner quality. All the colorful, it's very well presented. But I never heard of it. So it must not have lasted too long. This is in really good shape.
It's the last book.
A new kind of motor car beauty. See the rumble seat? Mm-hmm. Isn't that just so cute? Page 1. Millions of people have seen the new Ford since it was first announced and have been delighted with its smart low lines, sturdy rugged strength, and its beautiful colors. At first they were all black. Gosh, it really is a book. Look at her clothes. Very fashionable. Combines the alert speed and style of the Roadster which was like, didn't have a top, with the advantages of a closed car. And the reason that spares were so accessible is you needed them all the time, quite frequently. And maybe another reason that women usually weren't encouraged to drive cars, because they required so much maintenance on the trip. Designed and built to accommodate 5 passengers without crowding. I can't quite believe that. Military type sun visor. Richly appointed in every least detail. See, that's the Roadster, where it doesn't have a top. Look at that coat. Wonder what animal it is. Her cute shoes. People would have a motoring jacket, a garment that they wore over their regular clothes because of dust and so forth. Of course, this would have been the height of fashion to show people in advertising. See, four of the 5 people have fur coats. Preventing vibration, gasoline economy, 40 horsepower engine, 55 to 65 miles an hour. But you wouldn't have wanted to do that. It would shake too much. Standard selective gear shift. Choice of colors. At first you could either get black or black. Wish there was a date. Oh, 1928. So I'm guessing that Daddy collected these in this box rather than Grandpa. Because Grandpa would have read it and either bought the car or not. But Daddy, being a kid, would have been more likely, because someday he could have a car like that. And he did like his cars. He had a red Pontiac that he bought with his own money when he came back to farm after college. And one of the teachers who boarded here, because if you taught at country school, you boarded with one of the families. She was engaged to a guy in her home, and they knew that. But anyway, Daddy was home. Maybe he got the Pontiac while he was still in college. I'm not sure. I don't know. But anyway, he was home, and he had just bought the Pontiac. And so he invited her just to go for a ride with him because they were friends. Anyway, she told me about that. Somewhat recently. I think she sent a card after he died, and I wrote back to her. And anyway, she called, or I called her. Anyway, and she told me about that story, the red Pontiac. And then when Daddy went to World War II, the Pontiac would have just been sitting here, and by then he and Mommy were engaged. So he gave her the Pontiac to drive while he was gone. And she was teaching in Salina while he was gone. And she would drive here on weekends and bring some of her teacher friends. There were 2 sisters that she taught with in Salina. Anyway, and they would come and have Sunday dinner and visit and take pictures. And then she'd drive back to Salina so she could work. And then they'd send pictures to Daddy. So think how much that meant to him overseas in World War II to get a picture of his sweetheart and his mom and dad on the porch of the house where he grew up. You know, because he'd given her that car to drive so she could get back and forth. But soon after having children, after Martin was born, they traded for a more sensible car.
So, that is it on the going through this box that we found in the shed. So, make sure that you like and subscribe, and see us next time.